Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for stopping by the channel. So for this video, we're going to be checking out the latest dive watch to come from Zelos, and that is their Blacktip GMT. Now, if you've actually followed the Zelos catalog for a while, you'll know that the original Blacktip came out a couple of years ago as a 41mm diver with 200 meters of water resistant and a bulletproof H-link bracelet. But now with this GMT iteration, you're getting the added functionality of being able to track a second time zone because they're utilizing the newly developed automatic movement from Seiko, the Seiko NH34. I really would like to thank Zelos for sending in this black and steel version of the Blacktip GMT. I'm sure they're going to be releasing some other color options, and it's going to be very affordable for what you're getting. I'll try and show the price up in the top corner here, as I am reviewing this prior to the website going live for this particular model. And if you are looking for a fairly modern spec diver with really great finishing and a GMT function at an affordable price, I do suggest you check this watch out when it is released. So why don't we flip the camera around now and you guys can actually take a close-up look at the Blacktip GMT in the studio. So now that we're in the studio, we can take a closer look at this Blacktip GMT from Zelos. And before maybe talking about the specific specifications for the watch, I'm going to briefly show you this really cool steel travel case that it ships in with the Z logo right in the center. And then when you open this guy up, it's really cool because you have storage for 3 separate watches plus some straps. And you do get the bronze Zelos warranty card. So again, a big thanks for them sending this into the channel for this review. They did give this to me for free, but they did not request any specific input for this watch. So I just want to be transparent on how this review will move forward. Now in the hand, the Blacktip GMT is surprisingly hefty and feels really solid. I removed 3 links to fit my 7.5-inch wrist size, and it still weighs in at about 177 grams, which does give you some nice wrist presence. Now this watch is full 316L surgical stainless steel for the watch head and the bracelet, and I really like the aesthetic. It is mostly brushed, but it has some very fine transitional polishes or bevels running across the side of the case profile as you transition from the side to the hoods of the lugs here. And then even if you consider the underbelly of the watch, you do have nice polished bevels that go along there before you hit the case back. And this H-link bracelet I consider probably the best of any bracelet in their catalog, and you can see very nicely brushed, great articulation. But look at those fine micro bevels just along the flanks of the links there. It is sized with screwed links here, and then the clasp is very reminiscent of another Swiss luxury diver clasp I don't need to mention, I think you guys know. But you got that twin trigger release for the milled swing arms, and then it's even got the push button toolless slider, so you can actually get yourself about 7 or 8 millimeters of adjustment on the fly, which at this price point is absolutely phenomenal. So here's a quick in-studio wrist shot of the Blacktip GMT, and as you can see from my 7.5-inch wrist size, I think it wears extremely comfortably. Looking down the barrel, you can see that the case shape does conform to your wrist very nicely, and the mass of the case is broken up between that really nice med case and the bezel insert as well. And if you don't like the overall heft, you can definitely throw this guy on a strap. It's an even 20mm lug spacing, so if you want to throw this on, different options aside from the bracelet, quite easy and universal to do. Now in terms of other dimensions, it's a true 41mm case diameter to my calipers. Flipping the watch to the side, lug to lug distance is 47.7 millimeters, and case thickness is about 13.6 millimeters from the bottom of the screw down case back and then to the top of a slightly domed sapphire crystal. Now, I do believe this sapphire crystal is supposed to have anti-reflective treatment, but the way they domed it, or maybe it's the particular colorway, it is kind of hard to read the text or the date when looking at it head on. But the indices and handset is highly polished, so actually reading the time is fairly straightforward and easy to do. Now, if we look at a macro level on the dial, the Zelos logo below the 12 o'clock is nicely applied. You do have Blacktip GMT printed just above the 6 o'clock date aperture that's there. And then everything else is fairly minimal in terms of text on the dial, which is kind of nice. The overall layout is fairly symmetrical. All of the hour markers are simple batons, slightly thicker at the 12, 3, and 9 o'clock positions that are there. And then the handset is also nicely squared off. And then you do have a pop of orange for the GMT hand. And then if you get to the very periphery of a dial, you do have hash marks for the running minutes. And then at the very edge of a dial, you do have your 24-hour or GMT notation that's there. And this 24-hour printing is also replicated on the stainless steel bezel insert. Now, speaking of the bezel insert itself, it's a very nice size and easy to grip coin edge bezel. And what I really like about this bezel is that it's actually a true 48-click GMT bezel that's bi-directional. So it's easy to offset this bezel if you actually want to track a third time zone. And they didn't cheap out here. I find a lot of other micro brands that do GMT divers will just use a regular dive style unidirectional bezel. But Zelos did go the extra mile to ensure you get bi-directional and 48 clicks. And might I add, the clicks are quite precise and everything does appear to align properly. Now, I did touch on the GMT movement that's housed inside this particular timepiece. It is a Seiko NH34, which is similar to the other Seiko 4 series models of automatic movements. So you get about 41 hours of power reserve. If you unwind the screw down crown, which does afford this watch 200 meters of water resistance, you can manually wind this GMT movement in this position. And then if you pull it out to the first position, if you cycle it one way, you're going to actually jump that GMT hand to get your second time zone here. And then if you cycle it the other way, you're going to quickly cycle through the date. And then if you do pull the crown out all the way to extremity, you're going to hack this movement. And then it's easy to set to any reference time that you would like. Now, I do really enjoy the crown on the Blacktip GMT. Very nice 7mm size, no crown guards, it's easy to grip and it catches the threads very nicely. And then you do have a very prominent Zelos logo that's labeled on the crown as well. Now, the Blacktip does have dive watch characteristics built into its DNA. So with respect to low light legibility or lume, this watch carries a healthy application of BGW9 Swiss Superluminova, and it doesn't disappoint. It's evenly applied and quite potent, and I think will last you for quite a long period of time in no lighting situations. Now, before concluding this video, I do like to talk about potential points for improvement. With this particular colorway, for whatever reason, maybe it's the crystal or maybe it's that matte black dial, but I do find it a little bit hard to read the text at certain angles. So I do hope that they can maybe use a completely flat sapphire or just find some better contrast with the other color options that are out there. Another thing to consider is that all of the indices and hands are very squared off, including your GMT hand. It would have been nice maybe to have like a broad arrow style hand for your GMT just to keep track of that other time zone a little bit easier. And the last thing to note is just with respect to the Seiko NH34 movement. While it's probably the most affordable automatic GMT movement on the market, I don't know how well pressure tested it is. On average, this watch does lose about 7 or 8 seconds per day with a bit of beat error, and I know Miyota is coming out with some of their own GMT movements. So it'll be interesting to see how the automatic GMT movement market just gets shooken up in the next year or so. But outside of that, guys, this watch is very well spec'd and comfortable for the price point. In my opinion, this is one of the most solid feeling divers that Zelos released in recent memory. You're getting the best bracelet and clasp system from their catalog, in my personal opinion. And it always is nice to have an extra complication, being able to track 2 or 3 separate time zones. But as always, guys, please let me know your thoughts on this timepiece in the comments section of the video. And if you do enjoy the content, do consider subscribing and hitting the like button. It helps out my channel a fair bit. So that'll be it for this one, and I can't wait to catch you guys in the next video.